Yeah, that's better. Sweet. Woo!
They're packaged pretty.
Yeah, sir. Man, look at that. They wrapped that pretty interestingly. Viking 10DP325 Viking V. These should be top of the line Viking Crusader suspension built for drag / roll racing. So, we got our tool here. I don't know that I want to unwrap this whole thing, but we'll bring it a little closer. Look at the beautiful product.
It's pretty.
Yeah. So I can't wait to take these out and put them on the vet because Lord knows she needs them bad. So this is just the fronts. We're still waiting for the rears, but hey, we're making progress here. So can't wait to put these puppies on and take it for a test drive. Also, we got another road trip coming up, but we're gonna leave that as a surprise. So this is the Viking Crusaders that I purchased. Double adjustable in the front, triple adjustable in the back. I don't have the rear suspension in yet, but I was curious as to why this suspension doesn't come with any hardware. So I purchased it from Keltrack and got the suspension just built there. So I had them build it. And it came in this packaging, which was kind of hard to get out, but you know, whatever. But the bottom bolts, it didn't come with any bottom bolts. And then it says, I guess that there's supposed to be 2 nuts at the top. But there doesn't seem to be any room to put the second one. There's no directions. There's no torque specs. There's no settings like paper. There's nothing. There's just the suspension. So I'm kind of confused as to how or why, you know, you pay a ton of money for some suspension and there's no hardware, there's no directions, there's no torque specs, there's no nothing, which is kind of frustrating. And there's a lot of information that I needed to find online. So I don't know, like, you know, I'm at this spot in the job and now, I mean, I have to wait to find my own hardware or what? So I don't know. I'm just going to get in contact with them. It's just kind of frustrating. I don't understand. Like that's the Keltrack Crusader, like best of the best, you know, C6 suspension from Keltrack, and there's no hardware or directions or torque specs or anything. So I don't know how or what's going on with that, but I'll get off my soapbox. One of the things that I wanted to mention, well, there's a few things. So one, with this suspension, obviously you're going to take this off, and then these 2 rubber pieces, there's 2 individual ones. So this is one you can see where the brake is. This just bolts right up to this right here. Ignore that. That's not, so I think I just dropped that in the engine bay. I'll have to go get that. But it bolts right up to this. So I didn't know if there was supposed to be a piece that goes here or what, but it turns out it just bolts up to right there. As far as I know, again, had to do a bunch of research or go on forums and look at videos and try to find any information on if I'm doing this correctly, which should have been in the packaging, but just so everyone else knows, that just bolts. So this will be at the bottom, and then at the top end in the engine bay, this top one will be there, and then that nut will be there, and then there's supposed to be another nut on top of that nut. So for everyone's info on Viking, if you ever purchase the Viking Crusader, doesn't come with hardware, doesn't come with instructions, doesn't come with anything except for the shocks. I don't know if you decide to build it yourself, what it comes with, but I'm assuming if you have them build it, it should come with hardware, because it should just be, you know, literally take the old stuff out and put the new stuff in. That's what you pay for. So, anyway, so that's number one, is that bolts right up to there. There's no extra pieces as far as I know. And then the second thing is, whenever you're taking out the leaf spring, which is what I had to do, it's 4 bolts in the center, and then this bushing screw, as you can see, mine was totally gone. Like, looks like it's been gone for a while, but there's nothing there. So this goes like that, and it screws into here. Whenever you're taking this out, you have to make sure that you unscrew this whole thing. In order to do that, while the leaf spring's in the car, you have to drop the lower control arm as far as it can go. So unscrew these 4, obviously. The upper control arm, you want to unscrew that because you're replacing the suspension anyway, or the shock, or, you know, whatever, your old coilovers. But to take the leaf spring out, you don't have to undo the tie rod. So on either side, I did not undo the tie rod. Okay, so that one's, you can see, is there. And this one, you can see it's there. Have not touched it at all. Okay, so you don't have to undo that to get the leaf spring out. You do have to undo the 4 bolts on both sides and drop the lower control arm. Just have it droop as low as it can go. And after you get the 4 bolts out of the middle, you want to take your jack and put it right here on the leaf spring. Don't put it in the middle or anything like that. Put it on this side and lift it up. And then you take that that lowering screw that I just showed you, and you just turn it until it's completely out. You do that on both sides. So when you're doing that side, take your jack, put it on in between here, right, to lift up that leaf spring on either side. And then you want to take that lowering spring out, or that lowering nut out of each side. After you do that, the leaf spring will just be hanging. I mean, you can literally just pull it out. So you can pull it out of either side. I pulled it out of the passenger side. So I turned it upside down first. So you flip it upside down because it'll bow like this. So when you flip it upside down, it'll be like this. All right, so you flip it upside down and you literally just pull it out. So obviously I didn't have all these here, but I'm making sure that my brake line doesn't have all of the tension of the droop on it. So that's why you see all of these hooks right here. So as you're doing this, there is a spot right there in the frame where you can hook something. I just hooked them around this, so it's not going anywhere, I can assure you. But however you want to do it, just make sure your brake line isn't hanging. But you can literally just pull the leaf spring out. Also, my front sway bar is already gone. So as you're unbolting everything, if you're building your car for drag, you don't have to have a front sway bar. That's optional, but you can do your own research on it. But just keep in mind, I've removed the sway bar on this car, or had it removed on this car. So the sway bar is already gone, and I just took the leaf spring out. So this will be full coilover, suspension. So I just wanted to let y'all know about those little things. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so update. I got those top bolts back in. It was definitely a pain, just like the forums say. But got everything in, got everything connected, bottom and top. So here is something. So there's a couple things that I want to give y'all a heads up about. So one, well, I've already put the reservoir back on, but whenever you put, here, I can explain with this. So still have to do this one. So like I said, this one goes on the bottom and this one goes on the top. What I mean by that, again, is this is the bottom right here and this is the top right here. Okay. So at this point of separation, right, the spring goes up. It goes up like that. So this bottom one stays on the bottom, and this top, you just have to undo this nut and it goes on the top. Now, they give you these jam nuts like so to put on top of the top part. Okay. So you probably won't be able to see it, but that is actually the top nut. There's two nuts there. That's the top nut that you're seeing. Now, in order to get that top nut to fit, you're gonna have to take your jack or something and push on the lower control arm to bring the whole suspension system up. To crush it, so this part squishes, to crush this part up, okay? Once you have it squished up there, then you can put the top three parts on, meaning that rubber part or whatever it is, and then, so at the top, you'll put this on first, and then this, and then the nut, and then the jam nut, okay? Just like that. But in order for all of them to fit, you will have to push this whole suspension system up. Okay, so that's the first part. Once you squish this up, you'll have enough room. Now, once you squish this up at the top, you will have to put the rubber part and the first nut on and tighten the first nut down. Okay, so you have to tighten the first nut down just enough to give you space to put the second jam nut on. Okay. So I didn't tighten it any more than that. I don't think you need to torque this down to 1,000,000 foot-pounds, just enough for it to be on there and to be snug. Okay, so that's number one that I kind of want to let y'all know. Number two, this is important. So as you can see, I have this rag here, right? Now, when I spoke to the gentleman at Keltrack, he said that the spring will be touching the upper control arm. Okay, it will be touching the upper control arm at full droop. Now, what I thought he meant was when all of this is disconnected, right, and this is all sagging down, that was full droop. But that's not what I believe he meant by full droop. Full droop means when the tire's not on and there's nothing to support the suspension, the lowest possible point that it can go while everything is bolted is full droop. Okay. So right now the car would be considered at full droop. Okay. Now, in order for it not to touch, I had to take the jack and put it underneath here and push the suspension up as if it were not at full droop, right? So that replicates the car at weight, right? So it replicates the car sitting on the ground and the control arm moving up. Okay, so when you have the tire off, again, and you have nothing supporting the suspension, right? The suspension's not on the ground, that is full droop. You're going to get rub. Okay, that is why I have this rag here, because I'm going to work on the second side, right? There's going to be rub at full droop, because right now it's at full droop. Okay, now when I put the jack under there and I raise it up as if the car had the tire on, right, the suspension does not touch. Okay, there's no rubbing of the upper control arms, and these are stock control arms. Everything here is stock. So, except for the suspension, of course, the coilover. So, it won't rub at full droop as far as I know right now. So, I will give y'all an update whenever I put the car actually on the ground. I'll let y'all know what I find. But if what I believe, you know, the jack is telling me whenever this is pushed up is whenever the tire's on and the car settles down and everything, all of this goes up, it should rise above this quite a bit, because there's decent clearance whenever this is, you know, whenever the weight is on the suspension. So, but I'll keep y'all updated. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, and then I'll let y'all know how things go. And if there is rubbing and stuff, I'll let y'all know. But if you ever have to, you know, take the tire off or whatever, I would just put a cloth under there just so that it's not metal to metal contact. You got some buffer there so you don't scratch up the coilover as best you can. A little bit inconvenient, but I mean, you know, hey, when you're dealing with aftermarket stuff, you just got to roll with the punches sometimes until someone engineers something else. So I'm going to get that done, and I will keep y'all updated. All right, y'all. So I got the two top ones in. Bada bang, bada boom. Follow the same technique both sides. Adjust is on the inside, the adjustable knobs there. So, I still have to make sure that the car is level and stuff, but I started on the rear. I want to kind of share with y'all what I found out on the rear. So again, I've got my little straps. There's a little place for you to hook it right there. These were my shortest straps, so it works out for this side. Of course, I've got plenty of slack on my brake line there. If you do have the e-brake engaged, disengage it. So that's a little tip number one. I will probably, that's got a little slack on it, which is good. I disconnected, but I think this is the ABS, disconnected that. But y'all don't have to disconnect the sway bar or any of the other parts of the suspension other than the shock, okay? And the 4 bolts that hold the upper control arm there. So just a heads up on that. So if you find that your brake line looks strained, you can twist kind of your rotor and give it a little more slack on that right side. So don't have to disconnect that. Don't have to disconnect that. Do have to disconnect the shock and the 4 bolts. I did that for both sides. So here's kind of my order of operations, the way that I did it. You can do it different if you want, but what I did was I loosened up these first, and then I loosened up those 4. And once the upper control arm dropped, I scooted the whole suspension system that way, giving myself some slack on the brake line. Then I took my drill and I drilled the bushings. I drilled the bushings to where they were up against the leaf spring. So you can drill them down or drill them up. So I drilled them up as high as they can pretty much go. And then, you know, I did the same thing for both sides, loosen those 4, loosen that, and took out the shock. After you loosen the 4 bolts for the upper control arm, you got a lot more room to play with. Just for safety purposes, I put the jack underneath the control arm. I did this one side at a time. So on the right side did the passenger rear, did the 4 bolts, you know, those 2, and then the 4 bolts. After you get this out of the way, lift, you can use a wrench if you got a wrench, or I just use the drill, it's just faster, to make sure that the leaf spring is, or the bolt, the lowering bolt is as high as it can go up to the leaf spring. Of course, loosen your 4 bolts underneath, just like the front. And after you got both sides looking like this, right? Of course, I had some longer zip ties, but I just kind of made them the same length as my shortest ones. So that's what's helping to hold this deal up, so that all the slack isn't on the brake line, or, you know, any of this. I should have disconnected this. Not that it was an issue, but so none of the slack's on that. Anyway, it's helpful to note, after you take the 4 bolts out and these 2 bolts out here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these 2 bolts, when you take this off, you will need to have, it's a bolt and a nut, so you will need to hold the nut on that side and then undo the bolt on this side. So you will need 2, either 2 wrenches or a wrench and a drill. So, but you will need to take it out. So here's the bolt and the nut right here. So, but you will need to hold this side while you undo that side, or else the whole thing is just going to spin. So not that bad. You know, if you're mechanically inclined, this will be a walk in the park. But if you're like me and you're just trying to figure things out for the first time, it'll take you a little bit, but it's really not hard at all, not intimidating. So I don't have the rear Viking Crusaders yet, but as soon as those get in, I'll install them and I will let y'all know kind of how that goes. I am a bit worried about the amount of room, because like the front, like I showed you on the front, at full droop, this does contact the coilover. And I feel like the rear has even less room. Not to mention, I do have the sway bar on the rear, and on the front, I removed the sway bar. So we'll see how that goes. I won't be removing the rear sway bar. And I might get like a thin sway bar for the front, but we'll see. I may just leave it off, you know, 60-foot stuff, but we'll see. But I will keep y'all updated. So if y'all have any questions, leave it in the comments below. So one more thing to add, just, you know, just because it might be useful information. So the long arm, the one that breaks off on the rear side, comes with these like brackets, right? And I've got 2 shims on the back of this. The bolts in the front, there's 4 shims. In the rear, there's 2 shims. That's just kind of what I had. So these brackets are going to go on this longer part of the control arm, and it's going to sit like that. Okay. So there's 2 of them. I've got another one here. So same thing. It's going to go on there, and it's going to sit like that. Okay. So it's going to press up against this bushing. All right. So just so y'all know, if you run across these brackets, don't throw them away, because that's, whoops, there we go. So it'll fit like that. Okay. Both sides. All right, y'all. Rear suspension is finally here. So we're gonna open it up, see what it looks like. All right. Looks about the same as the first package. Interesting. Got some more tools. I don't know if they're the same for the front and back, but looks like that's my part number for these. So my only fear is if these are going to fit back there. I mean, they should fit, but man, when I was taking stuff apart, I was like, this is going to be tight. So we'll see how it goes, but super excited that they're here. Okay. Here it is. Crusader triple adjustables. So, just so y'all know, you've got compression, rebound, and then that's the third part of the adjustable. So it looks like it takes a small Allen key. And then you've got a short side and a long side. So I'm gonna have to figure out which side goes where. And I'll let y'all know, but super excited. So apparently with these, you wanna adjust them before you put them on the vehicle. So I'm gonna have to figure all that out, and I'll let you guys know what I find out. Okay, so some more helpful tips. Before you install these, you're supposed to adjust them to whatever you want your ride height to be. Now, unfortunately, I didn't do any measurements beforehand, but I made sure that all of the thread counts were the same. And I also adjusted the compression, the rebound, and then the enhancer. I forgot what he called the third knob, but just for y'all's knowledge, if you get the Crusaders, the compression, which is on the left, and the rebound, which is on the right, you set the third knob to whatever the compression is. So if you got triple adjustable Crusaders and you're trying to dial in your suspension, right now I have it compression set to 1 and rebound set to 2, which means that third knob is set to 1. So 1 turn to the right. So got that set, got the length set. I don't know where the car is going to sit as far as length goes with these, as well as the fronts, because I have to set the fronts too. So when the car gets down, it's probably going to look super crazy, but I'll just have to do some adjustments. So, little tidbit there. Second part is these tools that they give you, okay? Now, I labeled mine because it gets a little confusing because they're supposed to fit into these notches. As you can see, I kind of marred mine up pretty good, trying to figure out which one goes where. Now, these do sit snug. So if they're not sitting perfectly, if they're not seating perfectly into these notches, that means that you have them on incorrectly. Now, with that being said, it's kind of hard with using my hands. Just so you know, and I don't know if your tools are going to be like mine, but if you notice, sorry. So I've got them perfectly lined up. They're not the same. They're different lengths, okay? So one is for the bottom and one is for the top, and they do look different on the suspension. So as you're putting these on, okay, the bottom one, as you can see, looks like it's the longer one. The top one is the shorter one, okay? So, wait, hang on. Yes. So I'm gonna turn this over. Okay, so there you go. that is the size difference right there. Okay, so as you can see, if we turn them over, the bottom one, which is on the bottom, is the longer one, slightly longer one, okay? So make sure you have both of these tools because you'll need both of them, okay? And the bottom one is the slightly longer one. You can see it's perfectly hiding the other one. So just a heads up on that, okay? Again, I feel like they should have been engraved on there, but maybe there's a reason that they're not. I could just be crazy, but the designs look different, as you can see, and the size is different. So I feel like etching them or something would have been a benefit. But I just go ahead, I went ahead and marked mine with like permanent paint. That way it's on there. All right, y'all. So here's another tip. I'm actually gonna have to pull this whole thing down, these 4 bolts at the top. They were so annoying to put in, but you just got to do them one at a time and just kind of get the thread started. Again, make sure you put the little washers back there. However many you had back there, put the same amount back on the back of each bolt. But, ooh, is that supposed to be like that? Okay, yeah, that is. Anyway, I might double check that. Yeah, it is supposed to be like that. Okay. So here's a tip. When you get these bolts started, so I did the bottom first. I dropped the whole assembly and then squeezed in the shock here. Make sure you don't extend your brake line. Just always be mindful of that brake line. But that's what I did. I drooped the whole thing. Then I moved this up and out of the way, and then I slid the shock down in there. I saw one guy slipping in at the bottom. I don't think it matters which way you put it in. But here's the thing to keep in mind. That bolt back there, you won't be able to get your ratchet or whatever it is you're trying to put on there. You won't be able to get it back there if you don't button up the top first. So when you get the top on there, tighten these 2 first, then do everything else. So tighten those 2 first, then I would thread that bolt. I wouldn't tighten the bottom one, this bolt right here. I wouldn't tighten it, but I'd thread it. I'd put it in there. And then put those 4 in there, then tighten everything else up. But when you put the shock in, just do the top first because you're not gonna be able to put, again, a ratchet or whatever back there. So just keep that in mind. All right, y'all. Got the suspension on. It's looking gorgeous. Right there, bada bang. Bada boom. And then got the fronts on and also decided, you know, while I'm in there, I don't know if you can see it. Well, you probably not only see it from there. I mean, you can see up top. But we got them all installed. But also decided to put these permapucks in there. Looks like I got the jack a little off, but that's okay because it's on the puck, which is good that I got these pucks. So I would recommend getting a pair of permanent pucks or pucks in general, just because it begins to mar. I don't know if you could see it, but there's a little bit of marring from the jack. So I also decided to get some black lug nuts, which I'm almost done putting all of them on, but I had chrome lug nuts before, but I don't really like the look of them, and I dented some of them trying to get it off. Sorry, the camera won't really focus, but you can kind of see that one is good. Come on, focus.
There we go. That one's good. That one's dented. So changing those out, decided to get black ones, but just little things. Got an alignment on the car, as y'all saw. So we're moving right along. So now we just got to get the tune dialed in, and then we'll be ready for, finally ready for a little bit of Mexico action. So sorry for the camera blurring. I'm not sure why it's deciding not to focus, but here's another small tip. Whenever you're jacking up the car, you're gonna wanna kind of crack the openings. This is at least what I do. So that as the body's raised and it starts to flex, nothing is crunching up on nothing. So, cool. I think our next little project is gonna be the fuel pressure regulator. Because we're holding fuel pressure, but it's not staying held, but I think that's what it is, so I'm gonna change that. If it's not, we'll go from there. But also did a little mod right here, as you can see, alky cap, courtesy of myself, since whoever took my other one's kind of a douchebag. Not sure who it was, but if you're watching, you're a freaking douchebag. That's why we can't have nice things. But anyway, replaced it. This was actually $30 for this cap. $30 for this lid. It's insane. But I didn't want the old scratched up one that someone decided to trade me for, which is right here. Can't really see that it's all scratched up, but it's scratched up and it doesn't have the top on it. Complete trash. Anyway, nobody takes care of your stuff like you do. So I'll just go ahead and, you know, take care of the little things. So anyway, that's the update for now. So I'll let y'all know what I'm doing next. I've sat on these Morimoto headlights, still in the box. As you can see, I've never opened this box, ever. So tried to get them sold, but people on Facebook Marketplace are clowns, so decided to just go ahead and keep them. Because I want the C8 style. The C7 style looks really, really good too, but I think for this car, I want to get the C8 style. So they're now the same price, which is pretty cool. So whenever I purchased these, I purchased them for quite a bit because they pretty much just come out. And I'd got them for my old Corvette, but I don't have that car anymore. So I was trying to sell it so that I can, you know, at least get a little bit of money to put toward the C8 style whenever it was priced a lot more than the C7 style, but now they're around the same. So, you know, I don't know. Might still put the C7s on because they still look good and they've got the sequential lights and all that good stuff, but we'll see. But for now, just gonna get this stuff done, little things done, and I'll see y'all in the next one.